In every discovery, there is trial and there is error. There is experimentation and there is failure. And sometimes we're just plain wrong. Even the best discoveries come from an idea that's really spaced out.
We've all heard the saying, what you don't know won't hurt you. But when we're talking about space, specifically what's happening over our heads, we might want the full story.
We assume NASA or our governments fill us in on what's going on in space. But sometimes, we have no idea what's going on up there. We take you back to late September 1988. The Soviet spacecraft Soyuz TM-5 has a sensor failure.
It all started when cosmonauts Alexander Lyakov and his Afghani colleague Abdul Ahad Mokhman undocked from the Mir space station. Their onboard computer failed and they were stuck in space.
U.S. officials found out about it because space organizations tend to be in good communication, even when their governments aren't the best of friends. Remember, it was the Cold War, folks. The officials were up in arms because no one knew where the cosmonauts might land.
And we didn't even know the whole story. The Afghani pilot was sent up with just 6 months hurried space training. The Soviets were trying to show a united front with their newly acquired Afghan territories.
So he was basically sent up there to shut up and hang tight.
Now that is cold. At least Lyakov was a veteran space commander.
Lyakov was given what should have been a standard mission. He undocked his spacecraft from the Mir space station so he could deorbit the ship and fly them home. One of the ship's sensors couldn't confirm the proper position. Lyakov immediately attempted to manually deorbit the craft, but the computer shut down the engine.
Since they were still orbiting Earth, they had a very tiny window of opportunity to land the craft at their destined site. It wasn't like the Earth was going to sit around and wait for them. Dude, it's Earth. It does what it does. But with the orbit of the Mir space station and the rotation of the Earth, they had an even tighter window. Tight, tighter, their window.
After 3 attempts to deorbit and enter the Earth's atmosphere, the cosmonauts would have to wait another 24 hours in their tiny spacecraft until they came into alignment with the targeted landing site again. If they waited too long, the life support system in the tiny ship would run out.
Well, why couldn't they just go back to the space station? Because they discarded the docking system so as to make the ship lighter.
Mr. Mokhman, remember, he was just supposed to sit back and let the pro do his job.
He's a real pilot, right? So he knows that when the engines have trouble and stuff, that it's usually a good idea to look over your whole craft.
Don't tell me. He was the one that spotted the most serious problem?
Mokhman noticed that the ship's computer thought it was already on descent, which meant it would soon jettison the last of its rockets, the only thing that would get them home. Lyakov leapt into action and cut off the engines that were burning too soon. They narrowly escaped losing all their propulsion capability. They really would have been
lost in space.
The cosmonauts were left for a day in the cramped quarters of the descent module with minimal food and water and no sanitary facilities.
Nice.
But it could have been fatal if the very man the Soviet government sent to space as a publicity stunt
to sit back and look pretty
hadn't actually saved the day.
To this day, no one in the Russian government officially has fessed up to what could have been a global disaster.
So while it seems that our various governments make big mistakes and don't always tell us about them, what do you think you got us for, huh? Huh? Come on. Right there. Because that's what we call spaced out!